It's quite common for a documentary to begin with, Webster defines Kamschlubenslap as the feeling of ecstasy when you see a dog in the sunset licking his own fart. But that's usually not the case in video game related content, because gaming industry is rather new and most of its terms, slangs, idioms and abbreviations were created by the very anonymous gamers on internet. There's no vocabulary here, there's no Webster, so I decided to list all these terms, define each one, and give a quick backstory of their origin if there is any. If some of them were familiar to you, remember that I need to be inclusive for everyone else who don't know them all, so please don't be a Sherlock Holmes about it. I separated them into 7 groups. I didn't want to mention all the basic mundane terms that we all know, but then I thought, what if it's a parent watching who wants to better connect with their son, or to be relieved that he's not a psychopath, just a COD player? Or what if it's a non-gamer girl who wants to understand the language her boyfriend speaks? So I created a beginner-friendly video as well, which I will upload in 6 days time after this video goes online. So if a parent is watching right now, don't sleep on that parental guide. As for the rest of you, let the fun begin, but before that, I appreciate any form of support, even as small as hitting the like button and subscribe, especially since I'm making a 3rd vocabulary video as well, explaining every single video game genre, so hit the bell to be notified when I upload that one as well. First group, technical terms. Diegesis. In literal definition, diegesis is all the elements that exist in the world of the story, but in game definition, it usually relates to the effort of bringing an external element into the game, like transforming something only you can see, so the characters of the game can see or hear it too. The best example of that is Dead Space, where everything is diegetic. The health bar is on the back of Isaac Clarke, stasis bar is right beside it, and the remaining ammo is shown above the gun. Basically whatever the character can see or hear or feel is diegetic. A more sophisticated example would be how in Dark Souls, there's a logic behind you reviving over and over at the bonfires. The music you hear on the radio is diegetic, but the one you hear at the boss fight is not. Immersion. The feeling of getting absorbed and getting lost into a game, to become fully disconnected from the real world and float in the pixels. It's not specific to games, but an example would be definitely Red Dead Redemption 2. Ragdolling. What happens after death? Well, that's the humanity's biggest question, or its worst nightmare. Many philosophers throughout the history have attempted to No, in the game. What happens after death in the game? 2 things can happen. The character falls down in a scripted animation. It's constant, it's fixed, and they die the same way 10,000 times again. That can cause problems, but if you get hit by a really big sword, and instead of getting thrown into the air, you just curl up and vanish. The other approach is that they turn you into a ragdoll. A set of bones and joints connected by constraints, uncontrolled by the player. Now instead of a fixed animation, the body can react to whatever happens to it, like a ragdoll. It's more realistic and sometimes hilarious. Example, again, Red Dead Redemption 2. Mod, an unofficial patch by a third party that changes the appearance or the mechanics of the game to the player's desire. A mod can be helpful by fixing a bug like how it is in Skyrim, or they can be childish like 2B in Dark Souls. Hitbox. The invisible region that forms the body of objects and characters to help the game understand if 2 elements are having a collision or not. So when you swing your sword into the air, if its hitbox collides with the hitbox of the boss, that means you have hit them. The devs try to design the hitboxes as accurate and realistic as possible, but a bad design can lead into objects hitting each other, without the game considering it a hit. Iframe. The short time you're invincible after taking damage. You see, when you get hit by a sword for instance, that sword is supposed to take only one of your hearts, and it does, but 1 heart for every frame it's getting through your hitbox. There's something called collision detector that's responsible for the hitbox's behavior, and unfortunately that system counts every single frame they hit. So 60 frames per second, you can lose 60 masks in Hollow Knight in 1 second, in 1 hit, and that would be the case if iframe wouldn't intervene. It's basically a programming technique to prevent your health points to plummet, making the hitbox invincible after taking a single damage. Of course the enemies have their own iframe as well, though it's much shorter than yours. Ping. An internet measurement to determine how long it takes for data, usually a 64 bytes packet, to travel from your device to the game server and come back. That's why the lower the number is, the better, and it's measured in milliseconds. VSync. A graphics technology that syncs the game's frame rate with the monitor's refresh rate. Turning it off can cause screen tearing, which I explain in problems related group. Emulator. A software mostly used by Jack Sparrow's friends that can mimic the functions of a gaming platform like Nintendo or PlayStation on PC. They were very common until the 8th generation of consoles, when the software got too complicated to reconstruct and people gave up on it. A few titles still get emulated every now and then, like Bloodborne or Zelda, but not an entire platform like PlayStation 4 or 5 that can run all the games. Second group, gameplay related. Cheese. Cheese means using a cheap trick, an exploitable mechanic, or a design flaw, usually to defeat a boss fight or a powerful enemy with minimum effort and danger. A great example would be shooting the tail of Hellkite Wyvern with arrows from under the bridge, where it can't reach you. Buff. When the developers change the stats of some character or item in a patch or DLC to make it more powerful. Nerf. The opposite of buff. The act of deliberately sabotaging a character or a weapon, or maybe a blind spot related to cheesing to balance the game, usually because the players were exploiting it too much. Example, Mercy from Overwatch. Healing an entire team at once got nerfed into healing one person at a time. The term obviously originates from Nerf guns, a toy gun that can't hurt anyone. Aggro. Basically the attention of the enemy. When you trigger an enemy to notice you and attack or come after you, that means you've pulled their aggro. The term originates from D&D games with a similar context. Farming. Doing a repetitive work to collect XP or loot a specific item, mostly in a suitable location. For example, this section in Dark Souls 3 is the best place to farm souls. Gamers try to add different elements to further boost the act of farming. Like here, Shield of Want and Silver Serpent Ring are great for soul farming. This one's origin goes back to D&D as well. Speedrun. A challenge to find the fastest route to complete the game in the shortest time possible. The people who do it are called speedrunners, and they can do this act by conventional or unconventional means that weren't meant to work. If they do, they lead us to the next word. Any percent. If a speedrun is not limited to the implied rules of the game, like if the person does it by using a bug, a glitch, or something the devs haven't thought of, that run is called any percent, meaning the percentage of completion doesn't matter in this run. Example, pogoing your own shade in Hollow Knight to reach a part of the map you weren't supposed to be in. Stagger. A trigger for bosses when you hit them too much that makes them paralyzed for a few seconds and give you a breathing window. Shouldn't be mistaken for stun, which is an act of making the enemies go dizzy with a weapon or an item and doesn't last as long. Parry. While in martial arts it simply means blocking or warding off an attack, in video games parry is bringing up your shield in the exact moment the attack is gonna land, so you can bounce the attack back to the enemy, whether that is to impose their own damage on them, or breaking their stance or staggering them. Example, they made an entire game about it. It's called Sekiro. Go try it. Aim Assist. A tool in shooter games that helps the players to lock on the enemy. It can be a built-in feature if the game is single player, or a cheating tool in multiplayer games. Overpower. To get too powerful for a level, enemy, or a boss fight. Usually if that happens a lot in a game, that's when the devs will resort to nerfing the player or buffing the enemy. Max Out. When you increase all your stats to the maximum number possible. One shot. Killing an enemy with one hit. It can be one shot of a bullet, or one hit of the sword, or a magical thunderbolt. Usually happens when you're overpowered. Rage Quit. Sounds self-explanatory. When a player loses a match and quits the game out of rage. In our day they would simply be called sore losers. Mana. The magical energy in RPG games, especially the Japanese ones that help you cast spells. It usually has its own bar under the health bar with the blue color. Skill Tree. A hierarchical system of progression and ability power-up. In order to unlock an ability, you need to buy the ones prior to it first, open up your way. Quick Time Event. A gameplay mechanic to demonstrate a choreographic sequence of battle. Something happens, you enter a slow motion mode and the game asks you to quickly hit a set of buttons before your time runs out. Each button will make your character do something cool. New Game Plus. Often called NG Plus, a feature at the end of some games that lets you play the game from the beginning, but with two differences. You get to keep all your weapons and skills and stats, and in return, the game gets harder. Bosses have larger health bar and do higher damage, new enemies will be added, and the existing ones will increase in number, that sort of thing. Point of No Return. A section close to the ending of the main story, usually in open world games, that if you get past them, you can't go back anymore. Like you get locked out of the map and you should do multiple missions back to back and finish the game, possibly doing an irreversible change in the meanwhile, before you are able to go back to the rest of the world. In recent games they always put a warning for it. Third group, release related. Remaster. Re-releasing an old game by improving its graphics and image quality, usually without touching the gameplay or the story or basically the structure of the game. Example, Dark Souls 1 Remaster. It's the same game with somewhat better graphics. Remake. Recreating an old game from the scratch, usually with the same story and lore, but with a completely new and modern gameplay. Because of this discretion, remakes get really improved graphics compared to remasters. Example, Final Fantasy VII. It's almost the same story and characters, but instead of turn-based we have real-time action now. Reboot. Keeping the title of an old game, but making a completely new story with the old characters. Reboots change everything except the characters. Example, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Although everyone thought it's a remake at first, the games took a completely different passage from the original trilogy. Another example would be DMC Devil May Cry. But since that game wasn't successful enough in sales, Capcom did something called deboot. That is, to cancel a reboot and going back to the original franchise. Reskin. Changing the looks of a game, the characters, the environment, the story, and foisting it as a new game. Example, every other FIFA and PES games. Demake. It's like a remake, but instead of improving the graphics and quality, they will downgrade it, whether for older consoles and platforms, or to recreate a retro nostalgia style. Port. To release a game for a different platform which wasn't available at the release date. For instance, Spider-Man PC port, which was a remaster at the same time. Early access. An unpolished, incomplete version of the game that lets you experience it before the official release. It's usually for the devs to find the remaining flaws and to fix them. Playtest. When the devs provide a handful of people with an unofficial version of the game, even prior to early access, to observe how they go about the game and to fix all the major issues. Day 1. The first official released version of the game, usually filled with flaws and weird mechanics that are to be fixed in the later updates. Patch. A software update that fixes any problem a game might have. It doesn't change the experience of the game. It doesn't add that many things. It's just to fix a few things. Update. Much elaborate and effective than a patch, but basically does the same thing. DLC. This one belongs to the Acronym group, but I brought it here for relatability. DLC, short for downloadable content, is a large package that adds new areas, quests, missions, bosses, and maybe new endings to the game. If the DLC is too big, it's called an expansion.
It's an expansion!
Pirates. Cut the ball, you know this one damn too well. In-app purchase and microtransaction. Satan's secret real name. A strategy for free-to-play or cheap games or some expensive ones to make more money. You can play the game fine, but in order to have the cooler stuff, like clothes and dance movesets and weapon skins, you need to pay real money. Fourth group, problem related. Bug. Any programming problem that leads to a malfunction in the game. It shouldn't necessarily abrupt the gameplay to be considered a bug. Any abnormality, like people carrying laptops in their hands. The origin goes back to 1947, when engineer Grace Hopper found a moth trapped inside a relay of Mark II computer, taped it into a logbook and wrote, "First actual case of a bug being found." Oh, then how did she know and wrote about bugs if that's the origin story? Because it isn't. It roots back to the 1800s with the mechanical systems. But this story is way cooler and everyone's stuck with it. Lag. When the game repeatedly freezes for fractions of a second, usually because the platform doesn't meet the system requirements or it's overheating. Not to be mistaken with frame drop, which is a constant decrease in frames, and not complete freezing. Soft lock. This one's the real deal. A logical malfunction that makes you get stuck in a place you can't get out of. It usually happens because of level design and the dev's lack of anticipation. Remember, soft lock isn't just getting stuck somewhere. It's getting stuck and being unable to even die so you can get back to the checkpoint. Like this example, the boss's health bar is empty, but it won't trigger her death and I can't leave the arena. I can't do anything. Screen tearing. A visual mishap when two parts of the screen get out of sync in displaying the frames. It's usually because your GPU generates a different frame rate than your monitor's capacity, but you haven't locked the frame rate number to that capacity. Drift. When a joystick of a controller moves on its own or gets stuck due to getting debris inside or getting worn out. Spam. Doing a repetitive action over and over to the point that it gets annoying for everyone else. The word has quite the history, but in this context, it was coined after this sketch of Monty Python called Spam.
Have you got anything without spam in it? Well, spam, egg, sausage and spam. There's not got much spam in it. I don't want any spam.
Fifth group, content creator slangs. These are the terms YouTubers mainly use to describe their gameplay videos. Let's play. An unedited, genuine recording of a person playing a game firsthand without knowing anything about it, usually with commentary, divided into multiple parts of 20 to 40 minutes clips. Playthrough. An unedited full recording of playing a game from start to finish. Most of the times the player knows what they're doing to some extent, but not every single detail. It's one long video, close to the play length you get in websites like How Long to Beat. Long play. An unedited full video of playing a game to the fullest, finishing the main story, doing all the side quests, and getting all the achievements. Doesn't have commentary, and it's super long. Walkthrough, an edited video of showing or explaining how to do everything in the game from start to finish. It can either have commentary or just a gameplay video, not as long as the others, but still quite long. Guide, same as walkthrough, but going about only one puzzle or problem at a time, like explaining how to defeat a boss fight or how to find a specific item. It's super short, up to 20 minutes. Sixth group, labels. Noob, derived from newbie, a person who's bad at a game or doesn't have enough experience. Smurf, a pro player who uses an account with a lower rank to play against less experienced gamers. Tank, a person who becomes the scapegoat, takes the hit to draw the enemy's attention so his teammates can do what they planned or get out of an intense situation. Camper, a player who hides in one spot in multiplayer games to avoid risks and ambush at the other players, usually with a sniper. Flanker, a player who attacks the other players from the sides or behind. Get Good, not really a label, but I didn't have any other place for it. A deformed version of Get Good pointed at people who make excuses and nag about the game instead of getting good. AAA, the super costly games made by big studios, usually with a massive team behind it. Seventh group, Acronyms. NPC, non-player character, all the random characters you see in the game who are not you or an enemy. HUD, heads-up display, the visual information on the screen, health bar, ammo, points, etc. FPS, first-person shooter, or it can be frame per second depending on the context. DLC, downloadable content. MMO, massively multiplayer online, an online game that handles lots of players simultaneously. DPS, damage per second. GG, good game. RPG, role-playing game. JRPG, Japanese role-playing game. F2P, free-to-play. HVH, hack versus hack, when two cheaters confront in a multiplayer game and use means unknown to us mortal humans to defeat each other. AFK, away from the keyboard. VR, virtual reality, a VR headset that entirely covers your eyes, gives you the delusion that you're inside the game. GOTY, Game of the Year, the highest gaming award. PvP, player versus player, a multiplayer term. It can be shown in numbers too, like 1v1, 1v5, 5v5, showing how many players each team has left. That's enough for today, but before wrapping up, I want to end this segment with an important moral message. Never abbreviate cyberpunk. Thank you. Again, the second and the third episode of Gaming Vocabulary is in the making, so subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss them. If you can think of other groups I haven't covered yet, tell me in the comments and I will make a video about it. And as always, don't you dare go hollow.